Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Royal Ramble podcast. I am your host, Zach Stevens, and we are here to review the episode of SmackDown Live out of Dayton, Ohio at the Wright State University Nutter Center on June 20th, 2017. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Ramble_cast. Again, that is Ramble_cast. And of course, you can always subscribe to our YouTube page where you're going to find the highest quality episodes of the Royal Ramble podcast that we have to offer. So definitely check us out over there. We are also on Podbean. Check us out on Podbean at royalrambleradio.podbean.com. You can, of course, download that Podbean app and listen to us on the go wherever you are. We are also on SoundCloud. Check us out over there at soundcloud.com/royal-ramble-radio. And if you ever have any questions or you want to have some comments read on the air, either leave them down below in the comment section on the YouTube page or send them in to royalrambleradio@gmail.com. So yeah, guys, obviously, coming into tonight's SmackDown Live, we have a lot to cover. Coming off of that Money in the Bank pay-per-view that we had on Sunday, and the whole controversy regarding Carmella and Ellsworth and all of that stuff, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered as we head into this episode of SmackDown Live. Obviously, Daniel Bryan is back, and him and Shane have been teasing an announcement in regards to that controversy, so we obviously want to know what's going on with that. So the questions heading into tonight's show are obviously, what are they going to do with that Money in the Bank situation? Obviously, I went in depth on it on our Money in the Bank review, so if you haven't checked that out yet, definitely go do so. I went off on the WWE creative booking decision for that match. I'm not going to go too much into it now, but the fact still remains that they squandered a historic moment for these women by having James Ellsworth remove that briefcase from the ladder. So obviously, Daniel Bryan and Shane have a lot to kind of fix here. The other question I have going into tonight is, what is Jinder's next feud going to be? Obviously, he took out Orton twice now. He has defended his title successfully. No more rematch clause for Orton. So who will he face next? The other question I have, man, are we going to see any of those characters that have been missing from TV for the past couple of months? Where is Ty Dillinger? Are we going to get American Alpha? Is Rusev finally going to show up on SmackDown Live? I would say that this is the show that you should start reintroducing those lost characters back on TV with. You obviously have about 6 weeks or so until the next pay-per-view, which I believe is going to be SummerSlam. So now is the time to get those guys back on TV and get some fresh feuds going. The next question I would have would be, what's next for Naomi? Is she going to feud with Lana more, or are we finally going to have a direction for that championship match? Now, obviously, they have a whole lot to deal with in regards to that briefcase, but she still needs an opponent heading into SummerSlam. So who is that going to be? We hopefully can find out tonight. And then, of course, what are they going to do with AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura? Now, that match on Sunday between all 6 men was fucking fantastic. Definitely go check that out if you have not. The whole moment between AJ and Shinsuke was godlike, guys. I mean, there's no other way to put it. When those guys moved that ladder to the side and gave everybody the show that we've been wanting to see, obviously they're setting up for something between those guys. So are they going to go for that at SummerSlam, or are they going to save that for WrestleMania or something else down the line? Personally, I do hope they wait until WrestleMania. I don't want to get that match too early, but maybe we'll get some answers as far as those feuds go on tonight's show. So, we start the show, man, and all 4 women, minus Carmella, are arguing about what happened on Sunday backstage. Then Daniel Bryan enters to a big reaction. Obviously, he hasn't been on TV for a while due to having his first child. He goes on to say that he wants to hear them out, but he needs to hear what Carmella has to say in a few minutes. And then they cut to the ring, and Carmella's music hits, and we get massive boos for Carmella. So, look, I have my problems with how they booked that match, right? I did not want to see Ellsworth, a man, go up there and rob the women of a historic moment, right? The women don't have many historic moments in WWE, so when you take one away from them, it's pretty shitty. So that's where my anger came from, and that anger was directed at WWE creative, not necessarily Carmella and James Ellsworth as people or characters. I'm mad at the direction that WWE backstage decided to go with this thing. However, because Carmella and James Ellsworth are getting these boos, it did work. Let's be clear about it, guys. It worked. WWE got the cheap heat, and it worked for these characters. Now, before Carmella won this briefcase, when she would come out, whether it be SmackDown Live or a pay-per-view, what did you hear? You heard silence. You would hear crickets, man. She doesn't get a reaction at all. Now that she has this briefcase and the way that she got it, she is getting massive heat. So getting a reaction is always going to be better than getting no reaction. So this did work for the character of Carmella. Make no doubt about it, even though I disagree with how they got there. The commentators are basically arguing, talking about, what is legal and, what rule was actually broken. Obviously, this was a no DQ match, so there are no rules. So there's no rule that states that someone else can't go to the ladder, grab the briefcase for you, and give it to you. There's no rule against that, so what rule did Carmella break? And that is her whole argument here. She gets on the mic, big boos as she holds up the briefcase. Ellsworth goes on to say, "What's the matter with you people? Get off your feet and give it up to the first ever Miss Money in the Bank, Carmella." She starts prancing around the ring. Boos are obviously raining down on her. Carmella says, "Welcome to the fabulous era of Carmella." Then she tells James to hold her briefcase. She goes on to talk about her name. How her name has been trending worldwide for the past 48 hours on Twitter. But it isn't because she won the first ever ladder match. It's how she won. That's why her name is trending worldwide. She goes on to defend WWE's horrible booking here, basically mocking everyone who, like me, said that she ruined a historic moment. And her reply to all of them that say that is, who cares? This is where I started to feel like this is one of those moments where the writers are kind of writing in their own defense for their shitty booking into the show. Having Carmella go out there and basically try to defend what they did, that's horrible, man. You can tell that the writers are like, oh, it's not that bad. Let's make her go out there and kind of defend our decision. But obviously later in the show, we find out what they truly think about it. She basically goes on to say that ever since she's come to SmackDown Live, she's been overlooked and underestimated. She reminds everyone that she was the last pick in the draft, which I did forget about. And she says that she isn't here for girl power. She goes on to make fun of all the other girls from the match, saying that none of them mattered. She says that she won the match fair and square. She goes on to talk about previous Money in the Bank matches, and this is especially where I think the writers are kind of showing their hand a little bit, saying, hey, this has happened in the past. What's the big deal, guys? Come on, why is everyone so mad? She goes on to talk about the 2014 match where Kane helped Seth win it, or in 2015 when Bray interrupted Roman despite him not even being in the match. Well, he didn't help Roman. He interrupted Roman from winning, and then Sheamus went on to win it, but he wasn't even in the match, and that was her argument because James Ellsworth was also not technically in the match. Again, like I said, I think the writers are intentionally putting this in there to defend their shitty booking. By the way, none of those were popular decisions at the time either. Those were all shitty endings, and we felt like we got robbed, so I'm not really sure what they're thinking here by bringing those previous matches up, because those two matches were also very fucking shitty. She goes on to talk about the tweets that Daniel Bryan has been getting, which has been causing him to come out, and he has to come out and now address this issue tonight because of all the people berating him on Twitter and bringing it up. She calls the crowd pathetic to extremely loud boos. She says that she has earned that contract. She says that how can you break a rule if there are none? Which, hey, I can't argue that logic, right? It's a no DQ match. There are no rules. So what rule did she technically break if there are none? Daniel Bryan chants start to erupt. She then tells them to shut up because Miss Money in the Bank is talking, saying it's disrespectful to be booing at her. She says that Daniel Bryan will have to come out, man up, and reinforce what she has already said, that she is Money in the Bank, the Miss Money in the Bank, and there's not a damn thing that any of you can do about it. Guys, let me say this right now. This was Carmella's best promo of her life. This was fantastic, guys. And look, I predicted that Carmella would win. I thought that she could put that briefcase to good use, even though I don't agree with how she got it or how the booking decision was made in order for her to get it. I wish that Carmella really could have done it on her own, because that also helps elevate her as a strong character. James Ellsworth doesn't need to be the one pulling down the briefcase. She could have done it on her own some way. That's my issue with the booking. But having said that, guys, this was her best promo of her life. She gave me a very Alexa Bliss type of vibe here with her facial expressions and just how she carried herself with such confidence all of a sudden now that she has that briefcase. And that is a huge compliment. Look, Alexa Bliss is one of the best right now, and getting compared to her is a huge compliment. She was able to handle the crowd just like Bliss. When they start booing her, she was able to turn it back on them. She carried herself with this newfound attitude and really just being, an annoying, arrogant heel. Absolutely love it, guys. And like I said, man, I want Carmella to win this, Obviously, I know what they're going to do later. We'll talk about that. But I hope that if they do this rematch, which they are going to do, I hope that Carmella does end up keeping the briefcase after that promo. It's really important, man. That briefcase elevated her to be such a more confident character. She feels completely new. When she comes out, she's getting a reaction. That briefcase can change a character, and that's exactly what happened here. So I'm hoping that she can retain that briefcase next week when they do the rematch, because it's a powerful thing, man. That briefcase can really elevate her to that next level where she's really been lacking. She hasn't been able to get there on her own. So hopefully she retains the briefcase, and we can see more promos like this out of Carmella going forward. So we go backstage next, and it's Daniel Bryan. He's basically watching Carmella and Ellsworth leave the ring, so he's watching the show live. Daniel then says to Charlotte that he talked to the medical team and they examined her neck, which was news to me because I didn't hear about Charlotte getting hurt at all. But anyway, Charlotte tells Daniel Bryan that it's time for him to react and act, referring to James Ellsworth, obviously. She says that it's a no DQ match for the 5 certified superstars that were licensed to be in that match. She goes on to say that they were all excited to make history on Sunday and says, well, I guess we did. Obviously, ironically there. She tells Bryan to do what's right and exits. This is obviously going to be a recurring theme throughout the night. All the women are going to be going up to Bryan and making their case as to why they think he should change the outcome or maybe give him a rematch. I really love how they did this throughout the night. They did, have each woman come up to him and kind of make a case for it. And it makes sense for Carmella to kind of argue that it's a no DQ match, therefore there are no rules. And then the other women are kind of holding up my end of the argument, basically saying that they ruined a historic match. James Ellsworth should not have been allowed to climb the ladder and grab the briefcase. So I like that they're actually using the real-life arguments in the storyline. That's good stuff. Next, we go in-ring, and New Day comes out. Xavier goes on to say that, they expected to come out tonight with the belts, but Big E says the Usos dipped with those ships before we could put them around our hips. Kofi then says he thought they were going to the Uso penitentiary, but the Usos planned a prison break out of their own pen, obviously referring to the Usos leaving the match on a count out last Sunday. Xavier then invites the Usos to come out to the New Day's playpen, which I guess that's what they're going to keep calling the ring from now on, at least as long as this Uso feud goes on. Kofi then refers to Big E as the Warden. He says that he has a big nightstick, obviously sexual reference there, and he isn't afraid to use it. Kofi calls him Deputy, as in Depute E. They do the New Day rock chants, then the Usos come out, and we're going to have a match between Big E and Jimmy Uso. Alright, so we come back from commercial, and the match is basically already started, which I have my problems with that. I hate when matches start during the break, but whatever. Looks like during the break there was a lot of action around the apron and on the outside. Jimmy starts in control of Big E, then he heads to the top rope, but Big E catches him and hits the belly-to-belly on him 3 times in a row. Big E then starts running around the ropes, but Jimmy is able to catch him for a Samoa drop for a near fall. Jimmy kicks Kofi on the outside when the ref isn't looking. Then Big E grabs Jimmy for the big ending, but he's able to slip out and roll to the outside. Jay comes up to Jimmy and says, we don't need this, come on, let's go. Obviously, teasing that they're going to leave this match again. They start to leave just like they did on Sunday, but Kofi comes out of nowhere and hits that trust fall onto both of them. He did this move on Sunday, which I thought was kind of awkward. It's this move where he goes to the top post and he just falls backwards, which honestly is really stupid. Why have a move where you fall backwards? Because if you think about it, if it's a true trust fall and this is your opponent, why would they catch you, right? That doesn't make sense. If it was a trust fall, they would just let you fall to the mat. But no, that's not how wrestling works. Obviously, you're supposed to catch your opponent and help them, right? So, I don't really like this move, but they did it anyway, and he hit both of the Usos here. Jimmy then gets back into the ring. Big E hits the big ending, and it's 1, 2, 3. Big E wins. So my thoughts overall, this was just kind of a match, guys. It was nothing really special here. Just further extending that New Day Uso feud. I was kind of surprised that the New Day just got a clean win here, but honestly, the way that they booked that match on Sunday, it was booked in a way that made the New Day look more dominant than the Usos. They are written to be stronger than the Usos right now. So the Usos obviously teasing to leave again is obviously, I think it's going to lead to a stipulation at their next match where the Usos can't leave the ring like that. I think this is obviously going to head us into SummerSlam for sure. This will be the match that we get at SummerSlam. Then we're backstage, and Daniel Bryan is on the phone. I believe he's talking to Shane at this point. Natty and Tamina enter. Natty is acting really apologetic towards Daniel Bryan, really trying to suck up to him and get on his side. She apologizes for interrupting his phone call. She says that she wishes him a happy belated Father's Day. She says that she's proud of him. She starts rambling on about her cat keeping her up at night, obviously avoiding the topic of Carmella at all costs. Then Tamina interrupts Natty and says if he's going to let Carmella and her sock puppet get away with it, obviously asking Daniel Bryan, is he actually going to let Carmella get away with all this shit? He says there will be an official announcement later, and he tells Shane that he will call him back. So I guess Shane really wasn't there after all, even though I kind of thought he would be. You would think that Shane would actually be there for such a big announcement and such a big controversy, but they left this all to Daniel Bryan. And like I said, this is obviously going to be a recurring theme throughout the show. All the women coming to Daniel, trying to influence him in some way, and then await for his final decision at the end of the show. Then we head backstage again, and we have an interview with Naomi. They ask her about Carmella. She goes on to say that she knows how hard the women have worked, and it's a shame how things have gone down, but she's confident Daniel Bryan will make the right decision. Naomi then says that she doesn't care who has the briefcase because she will be ready. Then we hear Lana. She enters. She basically says that she should be thanking Carmella because it was because of her, or because it was because of their distraction, whenever Carmella came out and teased the cash-in. She basically blames that on the loss. She says that's why that Lana didn't win the belt. Naomi goes on to call her thirsty, saying that on Sunday she felt her glow, which is a really cheeseball line. But because she's a fighting champion, she will give Lana another chance next week. So apparently we're going to have Naomi versus Lana for the Women's Championship next week. Wow. So Lana is sitting here just getting handed championship shots for free while we have this huge controversy going over a contract that entitles you to one shot at the title. Let that sink in for a second, guys. Lana is going straight to the champion, right? She's basically talking shit to her, and Naomi is so dumb that she gives her a title shot. Meanwhile, all of the other women on the show are sitting there arguing over a briefcase. Now, keep in mind, Lana has had now 2 title shots since her coming up as her own wrestler. Meanwhile, all these other great women who can wrestle in the ring are sitting there arguing about one shot, okay? One shot at the title. Really doesn't make sense here. Not really sure why Lana keeps getting these championship shots. I know that Naomi is kind of playing as, she's so cocky. She knows that she's that much better than Lana, that she can win no matter what. But it really kind of puts things into perspective when she is just being gifted these title shots for no reason, and all these other girls are having to argue with Daniel Bryan about getting just one shot at it. Very weird, but I guess we're going to see a title shot next week. Anyway, we go backstage and we have a pre-recorded interview with Orton and Tom Phillips. Orton goes on to say that he lost control when the Singh brothers put their hands on his dad. He took his attention off of Jinder, and that is why he lost. He says that this was probably part of Jinder's plan, and he knows all about the numbers game, obviously citing the times that he used those same type of tactics. Obviously, when he was in the Authority and whatnot, always using the extra man to his advantage. He goes on to say, though, that this is far from over, and I heard the whole world give us a collective sigh because no one wants to see this shit anymore. Then he goes on to say that he's going to hurt Jinder Mahal. He doesn't care if he ends his career. He doesn't care if he has to break the scrawny necks of the Singh brothers. He says he will travel to India and deliver RKOs to his entire family, his uncles, his brothers, his grandma, and the entire Mahal family. And then the segment ends with Orton just breathing awkwardly for a very long time. This was kind of weird. Thoughts? Great promo out of Randy Orton. I can't believe that he honestly said the things that he did, talking about killing a bunch of people essentially, saying he's going to break the Singh brothers' necks and deliver RKOs to grandma. That's pretty crazy, guys. You don't normally hear that type of language in the WWE, obviously it being a PG product. PG, I put that in quotes. But obviously, I am not excited to see another Randy versus Jinder match again. Please, God, do not do this again. Give him a new opponent for SummerSlam. Obviously, I do think that might end up being Cena, depending on what his announcement is in a couple of weeks on July 4th. But I really do not want to see another Randy Orton versus Jinder Mahal match. Please separate these guys for a little bit. Please, please. Alright, so we head into our next match of the night, and we actually get a really good match here. It's Ziggler versus Nakamura. Tom Phillips says this really weird line. He says a rivalry is being renewed on SmackDown Live, and I'm not really sure what he means by that because these guys have only faced off one time in a singles match together, and that was on the Backlash pay-per-view, so I'm not really sure exactly how this is a rivalry, but okay. Obviously, Shinsuke, had a coming out party of sorts on Sunday, really showed how strong he was in that ladder match, so it's very interesting to see how they're going to book this match in particular, and I'm hoping that they're going to make him look just as strong as he did in that ladder match. He comes out, they're still using that artist known as tagline, which fucking sucks. I wish they would drop that because he does not need it. So the match starts and we immediately start with Nakamura chants, so he is over still. People are still behind this guy, and that is good. The first 30 seconds of this match, these men don't even really touch each other. Ziggler is kind of dancing around on the mat, looking to take him down for some, mat wrestling, and then Shinsuke is trying to kick him, but Ziggler keeps dodging the kick, so it goes on for about 30 seconds before they actually touch each other. Nakamura goes for an armbar on Ziggler, but he's able to roll out of the ring. Ziggler then gets back in and starts doing a lot of mat wrestling on Nakamura, getting a lot of falls for 1 counts in the process. Ziggler is really leaning into that amateur wrestling background that he has, and I really love that about him. It kind of gives him a better style or a more signature style in the ring than the other guys. Nakamura dodges a clothesline from Ziggler and then tells Ziggler to bring it, like he always does. He hits Ziggler with a series of knee strikes and kicks to the face. He hits a big knee drop onto Ziggler on the mat. He does the good vibrations in the corner as well. Ziggler then throws Nakamura into the post, which of course is WWE's favorite spot. It shows up on every single show. Dolph then hits a drop kick for a near fall. Ziggler then rakes the eyes of Nakamura, and the ref is just sitting there watching him. No DQ, very weird, but he just rakes his eyes and nothing comes of it. At one point in this match, JBL tells Tom Phillips to rub his face on a cheese grater, referring to, what it feels like to have your face drug across the top rope. And he quickly corrects himself and says, or don't do that, don't do that. Obviously, the WWE doesn't want someone at home grabbing a cheese grater from the kitchen and tearing their face up because JBL told them to. The WWE doesn't want to deal with that type of lawsuit. So he made very quick to quickly say, don't do that. We come back from break, and Ziggler's in control of Nakamura on the mat with a face lock. Nakamura is finally able to connect with a few kicks and regain momentum. He hits Nakamura with some seriously stiff kicks on the mat. These sounded painful. He hits Ziggler with some seriously stiff kicks on the mat. Nakamura does. Strong style indeed out of Nakamura in this match. Ziggler then runs the ropes, and Nakamura hits him with a flying boot. Nakamura hits a knee in the corner to Ziggler's midsection, as he always does for a near fall. Shinsuke's really using the knees and kicks as his weapons tonight, really showing that he's all about that strong style in the ring. These kicks were vicious, man. When he kicked Ziggler, you could hear it. He wasn't pulling his kicks or pulling his punches. He was knocking the shit out of Dolph Ziggler. Nakamura then throws Ziggler face first into the mat. He sets up for the Kinshasa, but as he's running in, Ziggler kicks out Shinsuke's leg and he hits the mat. Ziggler then hits the famouser very, very, very close near fall. I honestly thought for a second that we might see Nakamura's first loss here. Thank God that they didn't do that, but this was very believable, and that Famouser looked so good, and the crowd got really behind this near fall, and I thought that they might actually pin Shinsuke, but they did not. Then they have this struggle on the mat where Dolph nearly gets a series of pinfalls while Shinsuke's trying to get the triangle lock onto Ziggler. Nakamura finally gets that triangle lock locked in, but Ziggler rakes the eyes again, and Nakamura has to let go. That time, though, the ref did not see it. Nakamura goes for a reverse exploder, but Ziggler lands on his feet and hits the zigzag out of nowhere. 1, 2, Nakamura kicks out. Again, another very close near fall for Ziggler. Ziggler then immediately grabs Shinsuke into a sleeper hold. Nakamura starts fading. Looks like he might actually either tap out or just fall asleep. He finally then breaks free after a long struggle. Then he hits a knee to the back of Ziggler's neck. Ziggler is really woozy at this point. Then Nakamura sets up for the Kinshasa in the corner, and boom, he hits it. 1, 2, 3, Nakamura wins. This was a fantastic Kinshasa. The thud that you heard as it connected sounded like he basically needs Ziggler to the fucking moon, man. That's what this sounded like. You heard a real thud with that thing. It was like, I was like, God damn, that looked real. So overall, though, man, this match was really good. This was easily the best wrestling match on SmackDown Live tonight. Nakamura looked pretty dominant here, even though Ziggler had a few near falls. The shots that he was giving to Ziggler were 100% strong style. Like I said, you could hear the shots that he gave to him all night. Tons of knees, tons of kicks, really using his legs as a weapon. And that's really what I like out of Shinsuke's style, man. He doesn't go out there and he doesn't do a lot of those weak-ass punches. He does kicks, and those look like they fucking hurt. So, overall, this was a really good match. I personally like Ziggler and Nakamura matches. I didn't like their first one that they did on Backlash. I thought that Ziggler had too much offense in that match, and Nakamura really didn't get to showcase what he was all about. But now that Nakamura has gotten more comfortable, he's kind of getting into a groove on TV and pay-per-views. These guys can really go at it, man. So when we see them together, you know you're going to get a good match. And also, I just noted here that I really love Ziggler as a heel. I think he's so much better in this role than as a face, and it's not even close for me. Obviously, this match, though, I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it easily was the best match of the night by far. Then we head backstage. Daniel Bryan is with Sami Zayn, and they're talking about their ladder match from Sunday. He's basically complimenting him on the big spots that Sami did, which he did have some huge spots in that match. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. He says that next week he has him booked against Baron Corbin. Zayn goes on to say that he has Corbin's number and he accepts the challenge. Then Becky comes in. And Zayn has this kind of heart-to-heart moment with her, telling her that he saw the match and Becky went through hell. He feels like Becky got robbed and he was really rooting for her. She thanks him and then he leaves. So I don't know if anyone else kind of felt this here, but I kind of thought they were maybe teasing like a Sami and Becky bromance, which I don't know. That would be interesting to say the least, I guess. But I don't know. I doubt that's where they actually go with this. It's probably just, Sami kind of being that smart Mark character and, really being behind Becky like a lot of, the internet wrestling crowd is. That's kind of what his character is all about. So I don't know if they're actually going to go somewhere with this, but I thought it was interesting that they had these two characters interact on TV. Becky goes on to say that she physically had the briefcase in her hand until Ellsworth knocked her off the ladder and gave it to Carmella. She says that that this doesn't feel like the land of opportunity, but the land of handouts, which she must have seen that Lana segment earlier where she's getting handed championship shots left and right and they're having to argue about a fucking briefcase. She says that she's tired of people cutting her in line and asks Daniel Bryan what can she do. Daniel Bryan goes on to say that it's complicated, and Becky says, is doing the right thing really that complicated? And then leaves. Obviously really showing the predicament that Daniel Bryan has as the GM here. On one hand, as a wrestling fan, he agrees that what happened isn't right. He doesn't like that historic moment was robbed from these women. But on the other hand, as a GM, he has to realize that, Carmella really didn't break any rules here by having Ellsworth interfere. Obviously, they're really dragging this storyline out, and honestly, they should. This is probably the most entertaining storyline that they've had on SmackDown Live in a while, so it made sense that we didn't get really any answers until the final segment. Next up, we have an in-ring segment, and Kevin Owens comes out. He's still doing that thing where he doesn't walk on his face on the ramp, and I fucking love that. It makes no sense at all to walk all over yourself, so I love that he walks around his giant face. Very nice touch out of Kevin Owens there. Kevin goes on to say that the only reason he's standing in this ring right now without the Money in the Bank contract is because Sunday night the other 5 guys conspired against him. He says they ganged up on him because they knew he was the most dangerous man in the match, saying that they tried to end his career. Obviously, there were a lot of rumors about KO getting injured. Obviously, that is not the case because he does wrestle a match tonight, so glad that he isn't injured, but that's kind of what this whole promo is playing into. He says it wasn't fair, but he's still here as the new face of America and still your United States champion. He says that Shane loves to call SmackDown the land of opportunity, but then says the first land of opportunity was the United States of America. So, he's going to give one lucky individual from Dayton, Ohio, a chance at the title. So, obviously, Kevin Owens is about to start up the U.S. Open Challenge again, which, by the way, man, I love and absolutely miss the U.S. Open Challenge that Cena used to do. Whenever he was doing it, man, that brought something to Raw that actually got me interested, and I always wanted to see what wrestler was coming out. So I really hope that Kevin Owens actually does do the U.S. Open Challenge again, which, by the way, is how Kevin Owens kind of got his start on the main roster. So it would make sense if Kevin Owens kind of brought it back himself. However, Kevin Owens obviously doing the heel thing here and trying to give it to a local Dayton, Ohio wrestler, basically a jobber, so that he doesn't lose. So I really do, just on a personal note, I hope that they do bring the U.S. Open Challenge back because that was one of my favorite things that they ever did with this belt, and it really elevated it to be one of the top belts. But as he, says that he's, giving one lucky individual from Dayton, Ohio a chance at his title, AJ Styles' music hits. He goes on to say that, you know what's better than being United States champion? Me beating you for it. He says it's go time. He gets into the ring. He starts taking off his clothes, getting ready to wrestle. Then Kevin Owens has to clarify to AJ that this open challenge was only for a local from Ohio, and he is not from Ohio. Then we hear some new music. And to be honest with you guys, it took me a second to realize exactly whose theme song this was, but it was American Alpha. Obviously, there's one of our answers right there. Where the fuck is American Alpha been? And boom, they are back on TV finally. So, and like I said, man, they've been off TV for so long that it took me a second to recognize their theme since we haven't heard it in fucking months. So, but it's not American Alpha as a tag team. The person that comes out is Chad Gable. And he has a mic in his hands, which is even more surprising. Gable goes on to tell KO that he just moved to Dayton this morning. KO then asks for his address, and then Chad Gable gives him the address to the stadium that they're currently in. AJ says he knows the place, and then AJ tells the timekeeper to ring the bell. KO starts arguing, saying, wait, no, he doesn't actually live here, blah, blah, blah. But the bell rings, and Gable comes immediately behind KO, grabs him, hits about 3 or 4 different suplexes to KO. Then Gable gets the ankle lock onto Kevin Owens, and holy shit, I'm starting to think, first of all, I can't believe that we're getting Chad Gable versus Kevin Owens right now for the U.S. title. What a comeback for American Alpha here. It sucks for Jason Jordan, but, Chad Gable getting a singles match here is pretty surprising to me. We come back from break, and Gable is on the top post, but KO drags him off onto the mat. KO hits a super kick for a near fall. Gable hits a DDT onto KO. Then he hits a beautiful moonsault onto KO. 1, 2, KO kicks out. KO then throws Gable shoulder first into the post. Favorite spot alert, obviously. Gable then hits another awesome suplex to KO for a near fall. KO hits the pop-up powerbomb after this, kind of out of nowhere, and it's 1, 2, 3, KO wins. So this is a pretty quick match, but it was a super nice surprise to see Chad Gable and just American Alpha in general back on TV. Now, it does suck to see that, their return coming back being a loss to Kevin Owens, but I still think it's a great way to get them back in the mix and get them back into the minds of people that are watching SmackDown. I would love to see a Gable singles run down the line. Obviously, that's a little too soon for that right now. American Alpha is still a great tag team, and they need to use them as that great tag team. But it's still interesting that they're pushing a tiny, tiny singles push for Chad Gable, because me personally, man, I could see Chad Gable being in that sort of Daniel Bryan-esque sort of role down the line once he, gets a little bit older and is in the company a little bit longer. I could definitely see a strong singles push for that guy. Same with Jason Jordan as well, but I think Chad Gable really has that it factor. I don't really think this is the best way to bring American Alpha back, though. I would have liked them, to come back. And originally, I was getting excited for a heel run out of American Alpha. I kind of thought they were going to turn heel and start feuding with Breezango, but obviously that isn't going to be the case here. I just hope that they keep appearing on TV, man. That's the bottom line, because they are too good not to be on TV each week, and you got to find a way to freshen up this tag division a little bit. Even though the New Day and the Usos right now are kind of in that main feud for the title, you can still have a secondary feud with some other tag teams to kind of keep them in the mix. So hopefully American Alpha does keep appearing on TV. Then we head backstage, and we have the Hype Bros showing highlights of the match that they won about 6 months ago that made them the number one contenders until Ryder blew out his knee. They basically said that they never received their opportunity and they won it. Daniel Bryan basically says that the tag division has changed a lot since then, but he will give them another shot to earn a title opportunity next week against the Usos. So, already, guys, like I said last week whenever, Ryder made his appearance, I already got the feeling that Ryder's going to turn on Mojo and go heel. So I can already see it now, guys. Ryder's talking about how he wasted 6 months of his career having to, rehab his injury and then coming back and not having their number one contender match, be upheld. So I can already see it now. They're going to lose that match against the Usos, and Ryder is going to turn on Mojo. Calling it right now, that's definitely going to happen. Next, we get in-ring, and Daniel Bryan comes to make his announcement, man. This is what we've all been waiting for. We want to know what's happening. It's decision time. What is Daniel Bryan going to do here? He's obviously been getting influences all night from all of the women, hearing all sides of the argument. So is he going to do the right thing or the GM thing? We'll find out. So he comes out, we get huge Daniel Bryan chants. Big welcome back for this guy, obviously well-deserved. He says it's good to be back, and he mentions the women Money in the Bank match, and then gets massive boos as soon as he mentions it. He says he's been talking to Shane and trying to make sense of it all. Then he says that he needs to leave his feelings out of it and follow the WWE rulebook, which I'd love to get my hands on a copy of that rulebook that obviously does not exist because you guys never follow the fucking rules in the first place, but okay. He then introduces each woman from the Money in the Bank match last Sunday. They all come out to their entrances, and Carmella comes out last, and she, again, gets huge boos, which, like I said at the top of the show, man, this cheap heat is working for Carmella. She struts to the ring with the briefcase, smiling, looking happy, skipping all about. Daniel Bryan says the Money in the Bank matches are no DQ, and there's nothing in the rule book about having someone else come up and grab the briefcase for you. All it says is that the first woman to hold the briefcase wins it. Then there's, obviously the crowd is feeling very upset about this. The women are arguing. They're not happy. Then he goes on to say, but that said, there has never been someone who climbs the ladder, unhooks the case, and hands it to someone else. So it appears that we are in uncharted territory. So obviously Daniel Bryan kind of teasing both sides here, kind of saying that he needs to not follow his heart and do the right thing here as far as being a GM goes, but also saying that we're in uncharted territory and he doesn't, we don't have any previous rulings to go off of here. Ellsworth has a mic. He says that this was a pretty shitty thing of WWE writing to do, but I get it, I guess. Ellsworth says that having a baby has gotten him all soft and tells him to just get over with it. Daniel Bryan then tells him to shut up. He gets right in James Ellsworth's face, saying, if you talk about my baby girl again, I will punch you so hard in your face that you won't be able to breathe, and I will fire you. Huge reaction to this. We get enormous yes chants out of this crowd. And fuck yeah, I would love to see Daniel Bryan punch the fuck out of James Ellsworth. That would make my night. So yeah, please keep talking about his baby girl, James Ellsworth, so he can punch your chin back up into your brain. All the girls start interrupting each other, calling each other out. Then we have the most awkward moment of the year. Charlotte goes on to say if Natty doesn't shut up, she's going to make her look like Ellsworth. Then Tamina, she might have had a stroke here, because then she says, Charlotte, if you don't shut up, you're going to look like Ellsworth, which is exactly what Charlotte just said. I'm not sure if she accidentally memorized Charlotte's line and not her own line. I'm not sure if she unintentionally repeated what Charlotte just said. I don't know if she, didn't emphasize the right word. Obviously, if she would have said, Charlotte, I'm going to make you look like Ellsworth, that would have made more sense. But the way that she said it didn't come out that way. And there was just complete silence from everyone. Everyone is looking around confused. And then Daniel Bryan just has to find a way to save this segment. Tamina continues to be awful, guys. I don't know what they're doing with this character. She needs to not have a mic in her hands and just kind of be in that Nia Jax role where she comes out and just destroys everyone. But the way they're booking her right now, she is completely horrible. Daniel Bryan then goes on to say that Carmella will make history too, because she will be the first ever to have to hand over the Money in the Bank briefcase. Obviously, the crowd goes wild for this. He goes on to say that he is not going to let someone like Ellsworth interrupt one of the most important moments in WWE women's history. And he says that next week, they'll recreate that historic moment. Huge boos at the mention of this, by the way, because obviously this crowd wanted that match tonight. And they have a right to be pissed, man. Don't go out there and tease this and then leave them with nothing, saying that this is happening next week. Daniel Bryan then snatches the briefcase out of Ellsworth's hands, and he leaves. Obviously, my thoughts on this, it would have been a lot cooler to see this match tonight, but with WWE, man, they have to drag out their best storylines as long as possible, so of course they're going to lead this into next week. Now, I said at the top of the show, man, Carmella having the best promo of her life and really elevating her character to a new level. I still want Carmella to win this in the rematch. Don't get me wrong. I want her to go up there and take it herself. I like her character with it. That promo at the top of the show was fucking amazing. She has this newfound confidence that really makes her character noteworthy. And if you think about this, guys, think about it this way. So Carmella comes out and she's basically saying, it's all of your fault that I'm having to lose my briefcase, But if she goes out there and wins it on her own accord next Tuesday, then she has bragging rights over all of us. She can go out there and say, I won the Money in the Bank briefcase twice in 1 year. I did it my own this time, and you guys tried to take it away from me, and you couldn't. Think about how much heat that is going to attract when she comes out there and cuts that promo. So I do hope that Carmella retains this, well, not retains it, but gets it back at least, because Daniel Bryan did take it away from her. So I do hope that she wins it again and just does it the right way this time. We end the segment with all the women brawling, and then the segment ends with Charlotte hitting the natural selection onto Carmella, and then Becky putting her in the disarmor. Then we head into the final match of the night, which, first of all, I feel like the Daniel Bryan segment probably should have ended the show, but I guess they wanted to end it with an actual match, so the match that we get is pretty much a big giant wet fart, and it's Luke Harper versus Jinder Mahal. So you're telling me that we're getting this instead of the women's Money in the Bank match? Come on, man, that's bullshit. No one wants to see this match over that match. Come on, let's get real. This match starts off completely boring, pretty plain. I have my own personal issues with Luke Harper, guys. I have a real tough time getting behind him. I don't know what it is. I know a lot of people really like this guy. I do think he's good in the ring. He makes things look, real. I just can't buy into the character, guys. I don't know what it is. I just struggle to get behind this guy. Anyway, Jinder gets hit with a drop kick and lands onto the outside as we head to break. We come back and Luke goes for a suicide dive, but only hits one of the Singh brothers. Jinder is able to move out of the way. Jinder then hits him with a knee and throws him back into the ring for a quick 2 count. Jinder hits knees to the back of Harper, then stomps on him while holding the ropes. Luke then hits a butterfly suplex onto Jinder, which did look nice. Luke then hits a big boot to Jinder for a near fall. Harper then gets a side slam for a near fall. Then Luke then heads to the top rope, but he is knocked down by Mahal. Then Mahal goes up and hits the superplex onto Harper, but then Baron Corbin's music hits. Obviously, everyone's singing, oh shit, is he cashing in right here? Baron Corbin continues to walk around the ring, pointing at Jinder as he does so, saying he's got his eye on him, but he ends up walking back up the ramp into the locker room. Harper then gets a roll-up for a near fall off of the distraction. Then he hits a super kick. Harper sets up for the discus clothesline, but Jinder is able to grab him and hits the Colossus. 1, 2, 3, Jinder wins. Thoughts? Obviously, Baron Corbin is going to be teasing this cash-in every single night, guys. This is something that we're going to see a lot on SmackDown Live. Tons of teases out of Corbin, so let's just get ready for that. We're going to be hearing his music at the end of the show all the time. So, as Jinder wins, he's celebrating in the ring. Then we hear Randy Orton's music. Orton comes walking down to the ring. The Singh brothers come out. He easily disposes of both of them. Randy then goes off on Jinder. He runs to the outside, hitting a clothesline to Mahal. He throws Jinder into the table, then into the barricade. Then he hits the DDT off of the apron, which looked pretty vicious. He throws Jinder back into the ring, revs up for the RKO, but the Singh brothers come in and attack Randy to stop him. Orton is able to reverse it. He then hits the RKO to both the Singh brothers, including one as one of the Singh brothers jumps from the top post. Randy Orton catches him in the RKO formation and hits him with it. And we go off the air with Jinder clutching the title and Randy left looking dominant in the ring. Thoughts overall? The Luke Harper and Jinder match was a fucking snooze fest for me. I just do not care about Luke Harper as a character, and that's not really a feud that I can even get into because I know Luke Harper isn't going to get a title shot anytime soon, so it was really hard for me to pay attention to this match in the first place. I do not like that they're teasing more Randy versus Jinder. That shit needs to end. We need a new challenger for Jinder. No more Orton, please. I'm fucking sick of it. What is the deal with them always constantly doing rehashed rematches constantly all the time on WWE? I don't get it. You have so many different characters that you could use, so many characters that could use a title shot to elevate themselves. I just don't get why we have to keep seeing Randy versus Jinder, Randy versus Jinder, Randy versus Jinder, Randy versus Jinder all the fucking time. It doesn't make sense. Where is the rest of the roster? You know, why aren't they coming and asking for a shot at the title? They're just letting Randy do whatever the fuck he wants. Why doesn't someone like Shinsuke or Kevin Owens or AJ Styles or anybody else come up and say, hey man, I want my title shot. Randy Orton already lost. Where the fuck's my shot at? That's what needs to be happening here. We don't need to see Randy Orton again for the millionth fucking time. I'm sick of it. Anyway, man, overall thoughts on tonight's SmackDown. This was a pretty good episode. I think Raw actually probably was better, even though I kind of liked the storyline that was going into SmackDown a lot more, and that's what really kept me entertained. I really wanted to know what they were going to do about the Money in the Bank situation. Obviously, that was the number one question going in on everyone's mind, and we did get an answer to it. They are going to redo the match, so obviously that's what's happening. I don't really like, I don't like that they're doing it because they obviously realize that they fucked up by booking it the way that they did. It really makes WWE look very fucking stupid. Whoever wrote that original ending looks like a fucking fool, and they probably should be fired for it. The fact that they're, having to go and correct it now just tells you, they didn't appreciate the response that it got. That's why they're redoing this. If no one gave a shit, they wouldn't be doing this, and Carmella would probably just keep it the way that it went down. So obviously the backlash that they suffered from this obviously is telling them that, hey, they fucked up, they wrote the wrong ending, and now they have to go correct it. Like I said, though, I still want Carmella to go win it on her own. I just want her to win it like you should have done originally. And then also, one thing to note here, they didn't talk about this on the show, but on Talking Smack, Daniel Bryan did say that he is banning James Ellsworth from ringside. So, James Ellsworth will not be able to put his slimy fucking hands into this match. So, that is a good thing. So, I'm hoping Carmella is able to dominate, get the briefcase herself, and have bragging rights over all of us. As she says, hey, you tried to take it away from me, but look, I still got it. The rest of the show, though, it was okay. I liked how they sprinkled in each of the 5 women's arguments, throughout the show. I thought it was a nice through line, and I really appreciated that from a storytelling standpoint. I also really like that they're maybe doing the U.S. Open Challenge again. Maybe. The fact that Chad Gable got a match tonight was a definite plus, but it kind of sucks that this is how American Alpha gets reintroduced. It's weird that Gable kind of got a single title shot here, but overall, man, I'm just glad that they're on TV again, and I hope that they can come out of this, looking a lot better than they were originally. Obviously, since coming up from NXT, they've kind of fallen flat. No one's really getting behind these guys, so hopefully they can find a way to make them work. One thing to note here, no Ty Dillinger, even though he was on some like Sonic commercial. I fast forward through that shit because no one wants to see that garbage. But no Ty Dillinger, no Rusev. Obviously, they still have a lot of time before we head into SummerSlam, so there is still some time to reintroduce those characters and get them into feuds. But one thing to note here is that there was no Breezango tonight, no Fashion Files, so the streak of Fashion Files ended with that Money in the Bank. So that does suck. I really hope this isn't the end of their run. I'm hoping that they just, kept them off TV because they had so much other stuff to cover tonight, and hopefully they will be back next week. Based off the way the matches were booked tonight, AJ coming out for that U.S. title shot against Owens, it makes it look like AJ may be going for the U.S. title. Him coming out originally before Gable, got the match was kind of indicative of that. I think it'll be a great match regardless of who wins, but I honestly wonder if they might actually do the title change. We still have a lot of time before that match actually occurs. I don't know how I feel about AJ getting the U.S. title. I don't feel like I don't know, man. I think AJ needs the WWE Championship. He is the top tier guy, so he should be going for the top tier belt. Even though the U.S. title, has been elevated through a KO a little bit, and I think a KO versus AJ match would be awesome. I don't know. I like KO having that and him having that whole, new face of America gimmick that kind of works for him. So I don't know where I want them to go with that, but it does look like we will be getting AJ Styles versus KO in the near future. The Nakamura-Ziggler match was really good. That was easily the best wrestling match of the night. It was entertaining, but in the end, it really led to nothing of worth. At the end, it was just another match. Still no storyline implications out of either of these guys. More importantly, for Nakamura, we don't know exactly where they're going to go with him yet, so that's still a kind of wait-and-see approach as we head into SummerSlam. Like I said, man, they still got a lot of time left, so there's plenty of time for them to build up some feuds for these guys going forward. And then finally, man, Jinder really had no presence on this show other than the end, which it really isn't good considering he is the WWE champion. And the match at the end was pretty bland and pretty boring. There was nothing really to see there. And, the attack by Orton at the end was also pretty typical. We all saw that shit coming. Like I said earlier, man, I do not want to see another Jinder versus Randy match. Please do not build this up for another 6 weeks and take it into SummerSlam. Please, just finish this shit now. Let's end this feud on TV, and let's get someone else to challenge, man. Is it going to be Cena? It probably will be. I don't know, but we need to get Randy Orton off TV for a little bit because I'm just simply tired of Randy Orton versus Jinder Mahal. So overall, guys, that was the episode of SmackDown Live. That was our review. If you liked it, please give us a subscribe down below if you're watching on our YouTube page. If you're not, find us over there on YouTube and give us a subscribe. That is where you're going to find the best quality episodes that we have to offer. You can always follow us on Twitter at Ramble_cast. And, of course, on Podbean at RoyalRambleRadio.podbean.com. Download that Podbean app and listen to us on the go. And if you ever have any questions or you want to send in some comments, either leave them below on the YouTube page or send them in to RoyalRambleRadio@gmail.com. So again, guys, that was our review of SmackDown Live from June 20th, 2017. Thank you to all who listened throughout the week with our Money in the Bank video, our Raw video, which got the highest number of views that we have had since we started doing this podcast. So thank you so much to everyone out there retweeting the show and really trying to promote this show. It really means a lot to me, guys, and thank you so much for listening. I am your host, Zach Stevens, and I am out. Peace.